The old clock tower loomed above the town like a silent guardian. Its ancient hands moved slowly, marking every second with a soft, echoing tick that carried through the narrow streets. Few people dared to wander near it at night. Locals whispered stories of hidden secrets, of meetings that had happened behind its heavy oak doors, and of the strange, magnetic pull it seemed to hold over those who listened to its chimes too closely. Isabella had always been drawn to it. She told herself it was curiosity, perhaps fascination with history, but tonight felt different. The moonlight washed the stone walls silver, and she felt as if the tower itself were calling her name. She wrapped her shawl tighter around her shoulders and climbed the worn steps that led to the tower's entrance. A warm wind swept through the street, carrying with it the faint scent of smoke and something unfamiliar, spice, maybe, or danger. Her pulse quickened. At the base of the tower, the massive wooden door stood half open, creaking slightly as though it had been waiting for her. She hesitated, her hand hovering over the iron handle. She knew she shouldn't go inside. But that was the problem with temptation. Logic always came second. The moment she pushed the door, the sound of it echoed like a drum beat in her chest. She stepped into the dim interior, where the air was thick with dust and mystery. The spiral staircase stretched upward, vanishing into the shadows above. She thought she was alone until she wasn't. A figure emerged from the darkness, tall and commanding, his presence filling the space before she could even make out his features. The faint lantern light illuminated him piece by piece, a strong jawline, eyes that gleamed like polished obsidian, and the subtle curve of a smile that was equal parts dangerous and inviting. "You shouldn't be here," he said, his voice low, smooth, and edged with something she couldn't name. Her heart hammered. "Neither should you." The stranger chuckled softly, a sound that rolled through her like velvet. "Touché." He stepped closer, his boots silent against the stone floor, as if he knew exactly how to move without disturbing the air. "But perhaps that makes us the same. Drawn to what we shouldn't want." Isabella swallowed, her throat suddenly dry. She didn't know him, yet she felt as though she had been waiting for him all her life. There was an energy between them, a pull that made it impossible to step back. "Why are you here?" she asked, her voice quieter than she intended. His eyes locked onto hers. "Maybe the same reason you are. Curiosity. Or maybe," he leaned closer, his words brushing against her ear, "temptation." The word lingered in the air like a spark before fire. The silence that followed was charged, broken only by the rhythmic tick of the clock above them. She could feel the heat of him, even without contact, and it left her trembling. "You don't even know me," she whispered, though her voice betrayed the fact that she wanted to. "No," he said, tilting his head slightly, studying her as though she were a puzzle he wanted to solve. "But sometimes knowing isn't necessary. Sometimes you just feel it." His hand brushed against the wooden railing of the staircase, and for a moment, she imagined his fingers brushing against her instead. Her breath caught at the thought. She forced herself to turn, to look up the spiraling stairs instead of into his hypnotic gaze. "I came here to climb," she said, though the excuse sounded weak even to her. "Then let me follow," he replied smoothly, as though it had already been decided. And so they ascended together, their footsteps echoing in the narrow chamber, closer and closer to the top where the great clock waited. With every step, Isabella's mind raced. Who was this stranger? Why did he feel so familiar, so irresistible, when logic screamed she should walk away? But the higher they climbed, the more certain she became of one thing: she didn't want to escape. When they reached the landing just below the clock face, The moonlight streamed through the glass, bathing them both in silver glow. The stranger leaned casually against the wall, but his eyes never left her. "Now that we're here," he murmured, "tell me, Isabella, what are you really seeking?" Her breath hitched. She had never told him her name. The clock above them chimed midnight, each deep toll sending shivers through her body. The sound drowned out her thoughts, leaving only the question and the man standing before her, a temptation she was no longer sure she wanted to resist. The midnight chimes faded, their echoes dissolving into the silence of the tower. Isabella stood frozen, her heart thudding as loudly as the clock itself. The stranger had spoken her name, yet she had never given it to him. Her lips parted, but no words came. Instead, she found herself staring into his eyes, dark and deep as if they held secrets older than the tower itself. How do you know who I am?" she finally managed. He smiled, not with arrogance, but with a dangerous kind of calm. "Names have power. Yours has been whispered through these walls long before tonight." She shivered. Was he toying with her? Or was there some truth hidden in his words? The lantern light swayed with the draft, shadows moving across the stone walls like restless spirits. Isabella stepped back instinctively, her hand brushing the cold edge of the railing. The stranger followed, not threatening, but close enough for her to feel his warmth. "Don't be afraid," he said softly. "If I wanted to harm you, I wouldn't have waited until now." That should have reassured her. Instead, it made her pulse race faster. "Then what do you want?" His smile deepened, though it never reached his eyes. "To know why you came. You don't wander into forbidden towers by accident." Her breath caught. She wanted to deny it, to claim she was just curious, but her body betrayed her. The truth pulsed beneath her skin. She had come because something about this place always pulled at her, a strange mix of fear and desire. And now, standing before him, she wondered if it had been him all along. "I don't know," she whispered. "Yes, you do." His hand reached past her, brushing the railing again, close enough that his sleeve grazed hers. The faintest contact sent a jolt through her. Isabella forced herself to meet his gaze. "You still haven't told me your name." The stranger tilted his head, as though the question amused him. "Names, again. If I give it to you, you'll never forget it?" "Maybe I don't want to forget," she said, surprising herself with the boldness in her voice. The silence between them thickened. The ticking of the clock above seemed louder now, a reminder that time was moving even as they stood still. He leaned closer, his lips near her ear. "Then remember this, Damien." The name curled around her like smoke, lingering in her chest long after he pulled back. Damien. It suited him. Dangerous. Elegant. Impossible to ignore. She repeated it in her mind, almost tasting it. "Damien," she whispered aloud, and his expression shifted, his eyes flashing with something sharp approval, or maybe hunger. "You see," he murmured. "It stays with you." Her knees felt unsteady, so she turned away, pretending to study the gears of the massive clock above them. Through the glass, the town below looked distant, unreal, as though they had stepped into another world. "You shouldn't be here," Damien said again, though his tone was softer now. "This place has a way of keeping those who enter. Of binding them." "Binding them to what?" she asked, still not looking at him. His voice came closer, the heat of his breath brushing the back of her neck. "To what they want most." Her body stiffened. She could feel him behind her, close enough that the air between them was electric. Every instinct screamed for her to move away, yet every part of her wanted to lean back instead. She turned suddenly, and their faces were only inches apart. His eyes locked onto hers, dark and unreadable. "Maybe that's why you're here," he whispered. "Because you're ready to stop resisting." Her chest rose and fell too quickly, her heart racing so fast she could barely think. She wanted to argue, to deny, but the words tangled on her tongue. Instead, she asked the only thing she could. "And what about you? Why are you here?" Damien's smile returned, slow and dangerous. "For the same reason." The confession hung in the air like a storm cloud ready to break. His hand lifted slowly, deliberately until it hovered just above hers on the railing. He didn't touch her. He didn't need to. The space between them burned with possibility. The great clock ticked again, louder, faster, as though urging them closer. Isabella swallowed hard, caught between fear and desire, and realized she no longer cared which one won. The ticking of the great clock was relentless, echoing inside the tower as though it were keeping count of her breaths. Each one came quicker now, shallow, uneven. Isabella's hand gripped the railing, not because she needed balance but because Damien's nearness stole it from her. He didn't move closer, but his presence pressed against her as surely as if he had. The air between them was charged, humming with something more powerful than words. "Why do I feel like I know you?" Isabella whispered, her voice barely audible above the clockwork's groan. Damien's gaze softened for the first time, though the heat behind it never dimmed. "Because you've always been searching for me. Even when you didn't realize it." Her lips parted, but she had no reply. The way he said it made her feel seen in a way no one had ever managed. His eyes lingered on her mouth, and her pulse jumped wildly. She told herself to step back, to draw the line before it blurred completely, but her body betrayed her, leaning closer instead. Damien's hand finally moved, slow and deliberate, until his fingers brushed against hers on the railing. The touch was feather-light, yet it sent fire racing up her arm. She gasped softly, her eyes locking with his. "That's all it takes," he murmured, as though reading her thoughts. "One touch." The warmth of his skin lingered even as he withdrew, leaving her aching for more. It was maddening. He gave nothing yet promised everything. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, her voice shaky. He tilted his head. "Because temptation is only real when you fight it. And you, Isabella, you haven't decided whether you want to resist or surrender." The words coiled around her, daring her. Her breath quickened, her resolve wavered. She knew she should resist him, but each second in his presence made it harder. "You're dangerous," she whispered. "Maybe," he admitted, his smile slow and deliberate. "But so are you for me." The admission stole her words. Damien leaned closer, closing the distance until his hand brushed her cheek. His touch was gentle, his thumb tracing along her jawline, igniting a trail of heat across her skin. She didn't pull away. She couldn't. Her eyes fluttered shut as his lips hovered near hers so close she could feel the warmth of his breath but not the kiss itself. The absence was unbearable. Every nerve in her body screamed for more. And then, at the exact moment the clock struck midnight, he closed the gap. The kiss was not rushed. It was deliberate, deep, filled with restrained hunger. Isabella's body pressed instinctively closer, her hands gripping his shoulders as though afraid he might vanish if she let go. His lips moved against hers with a confidence that made her tremble, teasing, testing, before claiming. The taste of him was intoxicating, dark, forbidden, yet addictive. Each second stretched into eternity, and the sound of the ticking clock faded, drowned out by the thunder of her heartbeat. When he finally pulled back, she was breathless, her chest rising and falling rapidly. "Do you see now?" Damien murmured, his forehead resting lightly against hers. "This is why the tower called you. It was never about the place. It was about me." She wanted to deny it, to insist she was stronger than this, but her body betrayed her again. She had wanted him from the moment she saw him step out of the shadows. Still, part of her clung to logic. "You're a stranger," she whispered. His lips brushed hers again, teasing. "Not anymore." Her fingers curled into his shirt, holding him close, as though she feared the spell would break if she let go. His hand slid to the small of her back, pulling her against him, and the sensation sent heat rushing through her. The clock ticked louder, faster, as if echoing her heartbeat. Isabella knew she had crossed a threshold, that there was no going back. Whatever Damien was, whoever he was, she was bound to him now. Their kiss deepened again, hungrier this time, and Isabella melted into it, surrendering to the fire she had tried so hard to resist. The world outside ceased to exist, there was only the tower, the ticking clock, and the man who had become her temptation incarnate. The world outside was silent, but inside the tower, the air thrummed with energy. Isabella's lips still tingled from Damien's kiss, her pulse refusing to calm. She wanted more, too much more, and yet beneath the heat of her desire, unease lingered. Damien drew back slightly, his hand still at the small of her back. His eyes studied her with an intensity that made her feel as if he could see through her, down to every secret she carried. "You're trembling," he murmured. "You kissed me," she replied, though it sounded more like an excuse than an accusation. His smile curved dangerously. "You kissed me back." She flushed, unable to deny it. His words ignited a spark in her chest that both thrilled and frightened her. The great gears of the clock shifted overhead with a groaning clank. Dust drifted from the beams, catching in the moonlight. Isabella tilted her head, listening. The rhythm of the tower seemed different now, less mechanical, more alive. "Do you hear that?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Damien's expression darkened, and for a moment, the warmth in his eyes gave way to something else. Something sharp. "Yes," he said quietly. "It's been waiting." A chill slid down her spine. "What's been waiting?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he guided her away from the railing, deeper into the chamber where the shadows were thickest. The lantern flickered, casting long, strange shapes across the stone. "Damien," she pressed, her hand tightening on his sleeve. "Tell me." His gaze locked on hers, fierce and unflinching. "The tower doesn't just measure time, Isabella. It keeps it. Holds it. And for those who enter at the wrong hour," his hand brushed her cheek again, tender despite the ominous words. "It tests them." She shook her head, confused, her heart pounding with fear and longing in equal measure. "Tests them how?" His lips hovered near hers, and when he spoke, his breath shivered across her skin. "By temptation. By desire. By what they're willing to surrender." The kiss that followed was harder, hungrier, as if to prove his words. Isabella gasped against his mouth, her hands clutching at him without thought. His embrace consumed her, drawing her deeper into a fire she didn't understand but couldn't resist. For a moment, she forgot the tower, forgot the whispers, forgot everything but him. The taste of his kiss was intoxicating, pulling her under like a tide. When they finally broke apart, both of them breathless, Isabella's knees felt weak. She leaned against his chest, her forehead pressed against the steady rise and fall of his breathing. "This isn't real," she whispered, though even she didn't believe it. Damien's hand slid down her arm, fingers entwining with hers. "Then why does it feel more real than anything you've ever known?" The truth of his words burned in her chest. She couldn't answer, not when every nerve in her body screamed that he was right. The lantern flickered violently, as though stirred by an unseen hand. Shadows leapt across the walls, twisting into strange shapes, faces, perhaps, or tricks of the light. The ticking grew louder, faster, almost frantic. Isabella shuddered. "Damien, what's happening?" He turned his face toward the clock above, his jaw tense. "Midnight doesn't last forever. The tower is reminding us of that." Fear coiled in her stomach, but so did defiance. "Then we don't waste the time we have." Her words seemed to surprise him. For the first time, his confident mask slipped, revealing something raw beneath longing, and maybe even pain. He drew her close again, his lips brushing her ear. "You're stronger than I thought." She didn't know what he meant, but before she could ask, he kissed her again. This time, it wasn't temptation, it was surrender. The clock above groaned, gears grinding as if straining against themselves. The sound reverberated through the walls, through her bones, through the very floor beneath them. Damien broke the kiss just long enough to whisper against her lips, "The tower wants to know how much we're willing to give." His words both terrified and thrilled her. She didn't know what the tower demanded, what it tested, or what it meant for her future. But as Damien's arms tightened around her and his mouth claimed hers again, she knew one thing with absolute certainty: whatever the test was, she was already entangled in it, body and soul. And there was no turning back. The tower groaned again, its gears turning with unnatural force, as if straining under a burden too great. Dust and fragments of stone drifted from the beams above. The clock's ticking no longer felt steady, it raced, erratic, like a heartbeat in panic. Isabella clung to Damien's arm, her breath quick and shallow. "It feels alive," she whispered. "It is," he answered, his voice low, steady despite the chaos around them. His eyes, however, burned with urgency. "The tower doesn't just keep time, it devours it. And when two souls tempt fate inside it, the clock decides if they're worthy." Her throat tightened. "Worthy of what?" Damien cupped her cheek, his thumb brushing her skin in a gesture too tender for the words he had just spoken. "Of each other. Of what you truly desire." The clock struck again, though not on the hour. Its chime was distorted, sharp, almost painful. Isabella winced, pressing closer to him as though his presence alone could shield her. "This isn't just a test," she said, trembling. "It's a trap." His lips brushed her hair. "Most never escape it." "But you're not like most." Her heart ached at the weight in his tone, at the strange way he said it, as though he had seen countless others fail. Before she could speak again, the floor beneath them vibrated. A section of the wall shifted, gears grinding, until a hidden door revealed itself. Beyond it stretched a narrow passage lit by an unnatural glow, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. Isabella stared. "What is that?" "The next step," Damien murmured. Her pulse raced. Every part of her screamed not to enter, yet she felt drawn forward, compelled. Damien offered his hand, and though she hesitated, she placed her trembling fingers in his. The moment their skin met, the tower quieted, its ticking slowed, its gears steadying, as if acknowledging their choice. Together, they stepped through the passage. Inside, the air was warmer, thicker, humming with an energy that clung to her skin. The walls seemed to breathe, and the glow intensified, illuminating the chamber at the end. In its center stood a pedestal of stone, etched with shifting symbols that glowed faintly red. Damien released her hand and approached it slowly, reverently. The heart of the tower. Isabella followed, unease crawling through her. What does it want from us? His gaze flicked to her, intense. The truth. No masks, no lies. Only what we most crave. Her lips parted, but no words came. She wanted to deny it, to run, but she already knew. Every moment with him had been leading to this. Before she could speak, Damien reached for her, pulling her into his arms. His kiss was urgent, desperate, as though the tower's glow itself demanded it. She melted against him, her hands clutching his shirt, her body arching into his. The pedestal's light flared brighter, pulsing with every beat of her racing heart. The chamber seemed to close in around them, the hum of energy rising until it roared in her ears. The tower was listening. Watching. Judging. Damien broke the kiss only long enough to whisper, "Don't hide, Isabella. Not here. Not now." Tears stung her eyes, not from fear, but from the overwhelming force of what she felt. "I don't want to hide," she confessed, her voice breaking. "I want you. I've wanted you from the moment you spoke my name." The symbols on the pedestal flared, glowing like fire. Damien's expression shifted, pain and desire mingling in his gaze. "Then the tower has what it needs." A deep vibration shook the chamber. The light engulfed them both, wrapping around their entwined bodies like threads of molten gold. Isabella gasped, clutching Damien tighter, afraid she might lose him in the brilliance. But instead of pain, warmth spread through her chest, a powerful sense of connection, as if her very soul had been tied to his. The glow dimmed slowly, the symbols fading, until the chamber returned to shadow. The pedestal stood silent once more. Isabella pressed her forehead against Damien's chest, breathless. What just happened? His arms tightened around her. "The tower knows now. It knows what we would give." She lifted her head, searching his eyes. "And what did we give?" Damien's gaze darkened, though his lips brushed hers in answer. "Everything." The chamber's glow had faded, but the air remained heavy, thick with energy that seemed to cling to Isabella's skin. Her heart still raced from Damien's embrace, from the fire of his kiss, from the strange warmth that had bound them together. For a brief moment, she thought it was over, that the tower had taken what it wanted. But then the silence broke. A low rumble echoed through the stone walls, deeper than any chime. The pedestal flared to life again, this time blood red, the symbols twisting into new forms. The air grew colder, sharp as ice against her skin. Isabella clutched Damien's arm. "It isn't finished, is it?" His jaw tightened. "No. It never is." The symbols pulsed faster, and a voice filled the chamber, not human, not even earthly. It resonated through the walls, through their bones, through the very air they breathed. "A bond has been declared. A price must be paid." Isabella's knees weakened at the sound. "Price," she echoed. Damien's grip on her hand tightened. "The tower doesn't grant without cost. Desire demands sacrifice." Her breath caught. "What kind of sacrifice?" The symbols burned brighter, and the voice spoke again, chilling and final, "One must give what they cannot bear to lose." Isabella's heart stopped. She turned to Damien, fear widening her eyes. No. We can't, but Damien's gaze was already on her, steady, unyielding. It's me. It has to be. No. She shook her head violently, her hands clutching at him as if to anchor him in place. Not you. I won't let it take you. His hand rose to her cheek, tender, calming even as his words sliced through her. Isabella, the tower called me long before it called you. My place here was always temporary. Yours is different. Tears welled in her eyes. Don't say that. Don't you dare say that. The tower's hum grew louder, impatient, demanding. The red glow bathed them both, painting their faces in firelight. Damien leaned his forehead against hers, his breath warm, his voice a whisper meant only for her. I would rather give myself than watch it take you. Her chest ached, torn between fury and despair. There has to be another way. He kissed her then, fierce, desperate, as though pouring every ounce of his soul into that single moment. Isabella clung to him, returning it with equal fire, refusing to let go, refusing to believe this could be their last. When they broke apart, her tears streaked down her cheeks. If you do this, if you leave me, her voice cracked. What am I supposed to do? Damien's thumb brushed her lips, his own trembling. Live. Remember. Carry what we had beyond these walls. That is all I want. The tower roared again, the voice pressing harder, the price. Choose, or both are lost. Isabella's heart pounded. Both. If they refused, they would both be claimed. No, she whispered fiercely, shaking her head. It won't end like this. She turned toward the pedestal, her body trembling but her voice sharp. If it demands a sacrifice, then take it from me. My fear, my doubt, my past, take it all. But not him. Not Damien. The chamber trembled, the red light flickering as though uncertain. The voice answered, colder than before, not enough. Flesh for flesh. Soul for soul. Damien's hand gripped hers, firm, resolute. Then it will be mine. But Isabella shook her head, her grip tightening until her knuckles whitened. No. If you go, I go. There is no choice. There's only us. The pedestal blazed suddenly, brighter than before, the red shifting into blinding gold. The symbols writhed, their harsh lines softening into curves, as if rewriting themselves in answer to her defiance. The voice roared again, angry, or perhaps astonished. Two hearts bound as one. Refusal of separation. The law of sacrifice is broken. The tower shook violently, gears grinding, stone groaning. Isabella clung to Damien, burying her face against his chest. He held her tightly, his lips pressing against her hair. And then silence. The glow faded. The pedestal cracked down the center, its light extinguished. The air settled, warm again, almost gentle. Isabella dared to lift her head. Did we win? Damien's eyes met hers, dark and burning, but softened by something rare, relief. He smiled faintly. We didn't yield. And that, Isabella, may be the only answer the tower cannot take from us. Her tears broke into laughter, half hysterical, half joyful. She kissed him again, fiercely, as if to claim him against the silence. The tower had demanded a sacrifice. Instead, they had given it defiance. And somehow, impossibly, that had been enough. The silence after the pedestal's collapse was deafening. The gears no longer groaned, the walls no longer trembled. For the first time since Isabella had stepped into the tower, the air felt still. Free. Her hands remained clenched in Damien's shirt, her breath ragged as she pressed herself against him. It was over, or at least, she wanted to believe it was. Damien tilted her chin upward, forcing her to meet his gaze. His eyes, always dark and unreadable, now held something softer. Relief. Wonder. And beneath it all, the same fierce hunger that had first drawn her into his orbit. You defied it, he murmured. We defied it, she corrected, her lips trembling into a smile. For a moment, he only stared at her, as though memorizing every detail: the curve of her lips, the fire in her eyes, the way she looked alive in the aftermath of chaos. Then, without a word, he kissed her again. This kiss was different. Not desperate, not born of fear or the tower's demands. It was theirs, deep, unhurried, filled with the promise of something beyond stone walls and ticking gears. Isabella melted into it, her tears salty between them, her hands curling against his neck as though she never intended to let go. When they broke apart, the quiet seemed heavier, as though the tower were listening one last time. Let's leave, she whispered, her voice hoarse. Before it changes its mind. Damien nodded, his hand sliding into hers. Together, they turned from the broken pedestal and retraced their steps down the narrow passage. The golden glow had faded, leaving only darkness, but their entwined fingers guided them like light. As they reached the staircase, Isabella paused. The great clock's face loomed above, the gears silent, the hands frozen at the exact moment the pedestal cracked. 12:15. Time itself had stopped. She swallowed hard. What if we can't get out? Damien squeezed her hand, his voice steady. We'll make it out. Because we already refused to be bound. They descended slowly, the spiral staircase echoing with their footsteps. Each turn brought them closer to the door at the base, and Isabella's chest tightened with anticipation. She half expected the tower to resist, to slam the door shut, to demand its payment again. But when they reached it, the massive oak door stood wide open. Moonlight streamed through, pale and soft, carrying the cool scent of the night air. Isabella's breath caught. It's letting us go. Damien's smile was faint, wary. Or it's sending us out, changed. Hand in hand, they stepped into the night. The town stretched below them, silent and unaware of the battle that had taken place above. The moon hung high, but the air felt strange, as though they had stepped not just out of the tower, but out of time itself. Isabella turned to Damien, her fingers tightening in his. So what now? Do we just walk away, as if none of it happened? His gaze lingered on the tower's silhouette behind them, its frozen clock face gleaming in silver light. We walk away together. Whatever the tower took or gave, it bound us. That doesn't end here. Her heart swelled at his words. She stepped closer, pressing herself against him, her voice barely above a whisper. Then promise me. Promise me this doesn't end here. He bent his head, brushing his lips over hers in a kiss both tender and fierce. I promise. The chill of the night couldn't touch her as long as his arms held her. For the first time in years, Isabella felt whole, alive, as if the emptiness she had carried without knowing had finally been filled. But as the wind stirred, carrying the faintest echo of ticking across the square, she knew the tower was not truly silent. She pulled back slightly, searching Damien's face. Do you hear it? His eyes narrowed. Yes. It won't ever let us forget. The sound was faint, a single tick like the heartbeat of something vast and patient. It was no longer a trap, no longer a prison but a reminder. Isabella shivered, then straightened, her hand tightening around his. Let it watch. We're not afraid of it anymore. Damien's smile curved, dangerous and soft all at once. No. We're not. With that, they walked down the stone steps, leaving the tower behind them. The moonlight followed, silvering their path, and though the shadow of the clock stretched long across the square, it no longer frightened her. Because now, temptation had been claimed, tested, and survived. And the man at her side was no longer a stranger. He was hers. Forever marked by the tower, yes. But bound, above all, to each other.